I think mostly it was cool guy you didn't hear. Yeah, I think he was pretty busy and doing other stuff, so he couldn't talk all the time. I've been playing a bit of just I'm just saying the demo for it. I had a YouTube before, so I've done the time and I've completed in one. Yeah, I think that's the first mission. Those missions. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Sandro Linux Community Podcast. It is not time yet to actually say what time it is because I haven't hit the record button yet. And also, it's not actually live on the YouTube end. So if you're listening to this and you're not on the Discord and your name isn't Piggis, then you know, I don't know how you're listening to this. I don't know what's going on my stream either. Okay, apparently I need to change my resolution. Sure, okay. Hello everybody, welcome if you are watching the stream. Hopefully this is coming through to you alright. Hopefully this is decent quality. I had to lower the quality settings a small bit just because YouTube was a bit unhappy. But we'll get started in a minute, just once I'm sure that the stream is alright quality wise. We'll get started in a... and then we can get going. Let me see. I think I'm a bit hot on the mic, so I'll hit... I'll get slightly further away. But yeah, so let's... What do you think, Piggis? Is this a good mic level?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get started then. So, I'll hit record. Hey guys, welcome to the Sandro Linux Community Podcast. It is Friday the 3rd of November, so it is the year 2023, and Halloween has just passed us. We did not have a podcast on Halloween, of course, but I hope everybody had a good Halloween, and we can get on with some tech news today. So the first story is in the mobile news section. It's in the Android news. So Apple called Android a mass tracking device. So this story is coming from PCMag.com. So Apple, of course, are not exactly big fans of Android. However, apparently in this presentation, disclosed in the US versus Google antitrust case, Apple apparently had a presentation slide which said Android is a massive tracking device. So of course this isn't really surprising in the sense that Apple don't like Android, but also Apple. It's kind of a bit blatant. I mean, for employees, that's fine. But, of course, Apple aren't exactly always the best when it comes to privacy. It feels quite bold just saying that your competitor is a massive tracking device. And although most of this presentation has been redacted, it does show some of what Apple was thinking internally about privacy related to different companies and their competitors in general. And overall, it's interesting to see behind the curtain a bit, seeing what Apple was kind of saying about their competitors and how they compared themselves. This is from quite a while ago now, so of course, take this with a pinch of salt when it comes to, the relevance of, for today. But this, of course, still is quite interesting, even if it is from 2013, because, some of this is still kind of relevant. The war between, not the war really, but the kind of competition between Android and iPhone is still going on. Of course, now it's just a kind of duopoly on the mobile phone space. So it's even more centered on the two companies. I mean, even back then, of course, Android was the biggest competitor to iPhone, but even more so today. Anyway, I think that's it with that story. Piggis, do you have any thoughts? Anything to add?
No.
Okay, so moving right along to the next story. So there's no iPhone news I really thought was, relevant to today's stories. So we'll skip over that section and move right on to the PC news. So Windows 11 will apparently throttle excessive users of AI as Copilot rolls out. So, of course, Microsoft is one of the biggest companies in the AI space right now. They are, of course, they have quite a big stake in OpenAI, and they have been integrating a lot of the OpenAI kind of model into their products with different AI integrations. So, of course, the latest thing is the Windows Copilot. So, Copilot is meant to help you with, different tasks on your PC and simplify using your computer. However, apparently they are trying to stop people from excessively using AI. So if you're hitting, the AI with like a million different prompts, apparently Microsoft will now just throttle your access effectively to the AI, some sort of rate limiting, I'm guessing. So it makes sense that they want to, preserve their resources. They don't want people excessively using this new AI feature because it could cost them a lot of money when it comes to computing power for this, just to be able to process all of these prompts. But, of course, if you're kind of quite a heavy computer user and you want to, constantly talk to Copilot, this might be a problem for you. So if you're at your desk 24/7, then this might end up affecting you. But most people, I don't think, will be using Copilot that heavily. But if you do, just watch out for this. Any thoughts, Piggis?
Can't they just define their rate limit?
Yeah, I mean, companies are often quite vague with their rate limits. They often say, if you use a bit too much, then, we won't allow you to, if you have excessive usage, which of course is always an arbitrary kind of thing. So we'll just have to see how Microsoft deal with it in the context of this AI, Copilot. And of course, it's of course integrated into Skype as well with Bing AI and Bing and all these different Microsoft tools that they've really went for it when it comes to AI integration. So we'll just have to see where this rate limiting and kind of throttling will go. Anyway, moving on to the next story. If I could remove the thing at the end. Yes. So, sorry, Piggis. At the end of the URL, there's one character that shouldn't be there, and you can remove it to get the, news story. But Intuit is apparently shutting down their popular, according to PC World, popular Mint budgeting tool. So Intuit is well known for their QuickBooks software and their TurboTax if you're from the United States. So of course, mainly accounting software and software for managing your money. However, now apparently they're closing down a free tool which they operate called Mint. So Mint was apparently started 17 years ago, but Mint was acquired by Intuit, and effectively they're closing down this year. Basically they've already closed down. Hang on, so have they closed down or are they closing down? I think they're gonna close down on the 1st of January 2024. They're gonna close that piece of software, and apparently they will be shifting users of Mint to the other kind of software they own, Credit Karma. So apparently they're trying to integrate this Mint brand into Credit Karma and get rid of this old piece of software. So yeah, so it's sad news if you liked that budgeting software. However, that budgeting tool, however, you can now move on to Credit Karma. I don't know how they compare, but they have closed this down. So, you'll have to move. It's just whether you decide to move to another Intuit product or whether you decide to move to a competitor. Any thoughts, Piers?
No.
Yes. I mean, accounting, what an interesting subject. But yes, so, of course, I should correct myself here. I think Mint.com, as well as being a phone app, it is also actually a website. So there's also the website, and that is also closing down. So just a bit of a extra thing there. But moving on to the main headline story this week, the main title, this is quite big news. Arm is acquiring a minority stake in Raspberry Pi. So, of course, Raspberry Pi Raspberry Pi has been quite a successful brand. They've put out all these different microcomputers, such as the most recent Raspberry Pi 5. So, of course, they've constantly been iterating and improving their product. And now, apparently, ARM is buying in to the Raspberry Pi company. And, of course, now, because ARM is actually a kind of CPU architecture company, this could have some ramifications for the Raspberry Pi when it comes to integrating RISC-V, whether they'll actually be able to do that, because this could stop Raspberry Pi from actually experimenting with this competitor to ARM, and of course ARM will make sure, most likely, that Raspberry Pi keeps using the ARM technology. So this could limit innovation in some ways. However, of course, Raspberry Pi has always used ARM, so it's really just kind of assuming things that they would kind of experiment with RISC-V chips. However, now that kind of possibility is probably off the table, and this ARM stake is kind of puts the nail in the coffin for those hopes, I feel. Have you got any thoughts, Piggers?
No.
Okay, so moving on up to the next story. So this should really be put in the Mac section. I should make a Mac section for this week. However, it's not really. There's only one story here, really. It's the big event, the Scary Fast event that Apple held on the eve of Halloween on the 30th, or the 31st if you're in the UK, because they decided to host it, last thing at 5 p.m. their time, so it's really quite late here. But apparently they launched the M3 series of chips, and they actually showed how this improved on the M2 and the M1. So I've heard a bit of discussion around the maximum memory bandwidth. So apparently, I heard from some sources that apparently in some ways the M3 has some sort of downgrade compared to the M2, but because of some of the improvements, the M3 is actually better than the M2. So I haven't fully looked into that, but you can see on the article here a lot of the information when it comes to these new chips. However, of course, because it's Apple, they launched the chip, and they also launched the the new Mac with the chip. So they've actually put this new M3 chip in the MacBook Pro and the iMac. So of course, that's kind of expected. They'll integrate their chip into different devices with this new series of chips. However, it's not really as much of an improvement as some people might have hoped for, although it is quite a leap forward, and of course with Apple Silicon it's already quite a bit ahead of what Intel had when it came to Apple Intel Macs. So overall, it's just some interesting improvements. Any thoughts, Pigus? I mean, as a Linux user, you probably don't have that many thoughts, but I'm leaving it open here.
Typical Apple stuff with performance, just a slight bit better.
Yeah, it seems a bit more iterative this year. It seems a bit less of a kind of leap. But of course, that's what you expect they're going to, there's been some pretty big updates recently, so now they're kind of just improving the current formula, and yeah, not really that many changes here, but of course, Apple Silicon is already pretty good, so they don't really have to make that many improvements to make it better.
Yeah, but I'd assume that the price is a bit higher than the previous one, the
Yeah,
M2.
yeah. So of course there is price hikes, but of course any improvement really Apple will use to update their product, and so they can say that's a previous generation M2, that's so last year, get on M3 or whatever, and then of course that's how the cycle of things work, so they have to. Anyway, continuing on to the BSD section, I guess, because there's no Linux. This is labelled as a Linux section, but there is no Linux, so I guess it's being retitled right here to the BSD section. So Ghost BSD has had a new release, so it's 23.10.1. So apparently it improves certain things. It's just mainly some small things. So it now adds the ability to manually set a static IP address. It also adds, on the networking front, of course, the ability to manually set DNS server information. So I would say those are two pretty big things, because it gives you a bit more control over your networking, and being able to, change your DNS server and have more control over your networking. Yeah. But apart from that, not really much interesting to note here. Mainly just a small little update here. But if you're a Ghost BSD user, there must be one out there in the audience. Then you can update now, and receive like the 2 updates in there, and yeah.
Yay! They removed the dev tools from the default installation.
Ooh, that's a win for somebody. Anyway, yes, I guess it will be less bloat for like normal users. You can
Seems like they have a much better documentation than FreeBSD.
Yeah, I much prefer this layout. I mean, apart from the changelog being kind of no space between 23.10.1 and changelog here, as you can see on screen if you're watching the stream. So that is a bit of a formatting error. However, some of the articles we've seen today have had spelling mistakes, so I'm willing to let them off. And yeah, this looks kind of like Markdown style. So it's quite a nice kind of formatting here. And yeah, compared to a lot of the FreeBSD and OpenBSD release note pages, yeah, this is like miles ahead. So yeah. I mean, I do think Ghost BSD is meant to be quite user-friendly. So it kind of fits with the aesthetic, I guess. The aesthetic.
Yep.
Anyway, moving on to the gaming news. So some bad news for LilyU, I think. The Epic Games Store free game for this week is missing. So there was a promised game. They've only given 2 out this November, and apparently 1 is just missing. So you can download Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, but you can't download Fist which stands for Forged in Shadow Torch. However, you can also download Golden Light, so only one of the games is missing this month. So we don't really know why this isn't showing up. However, if you were looking to play this game, maybe just wait for Epic to address this. Or you could, of course, have a little playthrough. Have a little playthrough. Tulip Boy commits tax evasion, given that that's what's currently on. Very strange name for a game, but yeah, you can play this game, and I guess when the time comes around, hopefully Epic have addressed this. What do you think, Pigus?
Sounds like Epic just did an oopsie.
Yep, I think that's probably the case. So of course, game stores can make mistakes, so I guess this is just one. But anyway, moving on to the next story, a very strange story, which this is a different story. Okay, this is I'm gonna pull up the very strange story on screen. So EA's CEO apparently thinks that Microsoft's acquisition of Activision is a great thing for the gaming industry. So EA, he says that EA is feeling really good about the industry. So I don't really know why EA has decided to say this. I mean, I don't know their motives when it comes to, when it comes to praising Microsoft's deal and, feeling maybe they're trying to reassure investors and, I don't really know what the motives are behind this. I don't know the ownership structure of EA. But I think, this is kind of just a investor reassurance statement, I think. But I don't know if there's anything else to add there. Any thoughts, Pigus? Maybe you have a bit more of a perspective on this.
No, I don't.
Okay, so moving right along. So now let's get into the game releases. So there's one game release I wanted to talk about coming up in the next few days. So on the 5th of November, Football Manager 2024 will be released. So Football Manager is quite a popular game. If you're into football, it's quite nice to be able to, manage your side. It's got a lot more depth to it than FIFA football management. So, of course, career mode can get you so far, but, of course, it's better to be playing a dedicated game for it. And they've come out with this new release, not really sure on the, improvements, but it's another year with the Football Manager franchise, and yeah, it's quite a popular one, so if you're into that, make sure to check it out. Any thoughts, Pigus? Have you played Football Manager or not?
No, I have not played it.
Okay, so neither of us have played it. So that's all right, I guess. Let me think. I'm thinking. How do you think I? Yeah, let me lower my levels a bit. Do you think that's a good idea, Pigus?
Hmm?
Do you think lowering my levels might be a good idea?
Maybe just a little bit.
Okay. Okay, is that better?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, continuing on along to the broadband and cellular news. So here's an international story. Vodafone is apparently going to sell the Spanish arm of their business to Zegona. So I have never come across this company before. Then again, I don't live in Spain. I've never been to Spain. So, not really sure about the telecom space there. But apparently, Zegona is a UK, London listed firm, but they're apparently a Spanish. Apparently, they operate in Spain. So apparently, Vodafone are going to try and sell their business to this firm in Spain. So Vodafone have previously sold off some of their telecoms businesses before. For example, in Sweden, I think they sold off their firm back in like the late 2000s. So this isn't unprecedented when it comes to Vodafone. And of course, this plays a bit into the dynamics of Vodafone merging with Free in the UK. So that's quite a big deal if that gets approved. But this is just another telecom acquisition happening here, happening in Spain. Yeah. Have you got any thoughts, Piers?
No.
Do you know if I'm correct about the Vodafone getting their business acquired in Sweden back in like the late 2000s? Okay, let's know. Okay, so no reply there.
You're
So,
you're you're cutting out a lot for me.
oh, okay. I hope that the stream. I hope the recording's alright. In a minute, just because yeah, it wouldn't be great if unprecedented when yeah, it wouldn't be great if the recording was totally just it wasn't particularly good. But anyway, moving on to the next story. So the UK mobile news is the next section. So OpenReach is apparently launching their IP voice solution for UK ADSL broadband lines. So apparently, they're doing this to help meet their target of switching off the main telephone network, the public switched telephone network, by December 2025 and fully adopting the IP kind of telephone based solutions and fully ditching the old copper wire analog solution. So, of course, this has been happening in a number of countries, the adoption of IP telephone when it comes to landline. And, of course, this is the logical step forward. However, of course, this could, affect some older people who might rely on their landline to actually communicate with people. And if they lose access to that, then they might not be sure what to do. So there's that perspective, but there's also the fact that they kind of need to switch off the old landline, analog landline lines. Of course, landline has been around for a long time, so this will be quite a big advance in landline technology. And of course, some people are reluctant to switch. However, bringing IP voice to ADSL connections is quite a big step towards their goal. And a lot more rural people will start adopting it, I think. What do you think, Piggers? Okay, moving on to the next story here. So, Leica Mobile has launched monthly contracts which won't apparently have any price rises until 2026. So, only a month after their big cyber attack, their big cyber breach, apparently they've decided to go bold here, even during an investigation into their data breach. they've decided to actually start a marketing promotion here, promising no price rises until at least 2026. So this really is quite a big commitment from Leica. It does tell you where, you stand, I guess, when it comes to signing contracts and, uh, you know, maybe if they keep the prices the exact same, that will be an attractive feature for some people who don't like the price rises and feel like they might get kind of ripped off if, Leica Mobile or whatever mobile provider does a price rise mid-contract. This could kind of ease some of those worries, and if they keep to this commitment, it will be quite good for the consumers. Anyway, moving on to the next story. So now we're in the miscellaneous, spontaneous section of the show. So BBC iPlayer users in the UK apparently are facing IP-based geo-blocking. So apparently the BBC's tools to block users who aren't actually from the UK or people who are using VPNs has actually started blocking random legitimate IP addresses, and apparently they're trying to fix this issue, and they're currently investigating it. However, they do apparently now believe that it is fixed. So, you can see that for yourself if you're here in the UK. I haven't had any problems myself, but I'm not a big iPlayer user. So I guess if anybody wants to say in the chat or anything, if they've been encountering any of these issues, then please do. If anybody in Anyway, Piggus, can you hear me?
Well,
Okay, so am I cutting out a lot then? Okay, anyway. Moving on to the next story. So Nick Clegg has apparently compared AI clamor to moral panic in the 1980s over video games. So, of course, this is kind of. I don't really want to get into politics here. This isn't, what I want to discuss. Nick Clegg was, of course, was in the coalition in the 2010s with the Conservative Party. He was a Lib Dem. So, of course, he has that political history. But apparently, now he's working for Meta. He started working for Facebook a few years ago. He's now apparently comparing AI, kind of, regulation discussion and kind of fear over AI, to the moral panic over video games. And, yeah, I can kind of see where his point is coming from. It's kind of created by hype, a lot of this fear. However, of course, Clegg, it's kind of, he's trying to defend his company, trying to defend Meta, who's quite a big AI developer. And of course, I think that the discussion over AI regulation is quite valid and quite necessary. I mean, if AI is going to be going at quite a pace, development of AI is going to continue at such a pace, it kind of makes sense to be discussing regulation. To what extent you regulate it and to what extent you don't is another discussion. But yeah, I don't think it's really smart to call it, try and kind of make equivalents here, when really, they're not exactly the same thing. I mean, AI has a lot more potential than video games to cause harm. But of course, it also has more potential to cause good things. So, you know, we've always got to weigh that up. Any thoughts, Piggis?
Hello?
Hello. Any thoughts on? Did you hear the previous story? Hello, Piggis. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, I think we're having a bit of a problem with Discord at the moment. Piggis seems to not be able to hear me. So, you know, bear with us when it comes to the technical difficulties. Anyway, continuing on to the last story. So AI has been quite a big discussion point recently, and Rishi Sunak hosted a AI kind of conference in Bletchley Park. So of course, you know, there's kind of the historical significance of Bletchley when it comes to being the place where, you know, Alan Turing and a lot of other people worked on cracking the Enigma codes, and of course, defeating defeating the Nazis in World War Two. So of course, there's that quite big significance there, and of course, you know, it kind of makes sense to host it there. An AI safety summit there, although it is a bit further out of the way. But apparently, you know, that's where they decided to host it. Anyway, moving on to the content here. Apparently, Elon Musk showed up to this conference, and apparently he discussed a bit about AI regulation with Rishi Sunak. Rishi Sunak was kind of interviewing him. So, of course, Rishi Sunak is the Prime Minister of the UK currently. And, you know, they were discussing kind of cooperation, as it says here, on AI safety, and they were both agreeing that cooperation when it comes to safety with AI between different countries, including, you know, China and the UK and the US, would always be a good thing. So it was an interesting discussion. I listened a bit to it earlier on today. But of course, you can listen to that for yourself. But yeah, it's quite an interesting discussion. I mean, of course, Rishi Sunak is, you know, trying to kind of present himself as somebody who's quite pro AI, but also kind of ready to regulate AI. So it's kind of putting that perspective of being pro business. So of course, you know, Rishi Sunak does. The Conservatives do have an election coming up in the next year, so they will, of course, want to look to be more popular, especially with their current poll deficit. You know, they kind of want to find ways to improve their image, and of course, you know, this is quite an important topic when it comes to AI regulation. So it is good to see some discussion between business leaders and politicians. And overall, it's quite an interesting interview, I think. Anyway, I think that's it. I think that's us done today. Thank you for watching, guys. As always, I mean, yeah. Thank you guys for watching as always. Like, subscribe, and share. Check out the Discord server. You can probably see a link to it on screen. It is sandrolinux.com/discord to get a quick link over there. And until the next one, guys, goodbye.